KC Joyner, ESPN.com NFL Insider with the matchups to watch in the game, set to join us here as he's been studying the film for these two teams throughout the year.
Falcons are here, by the way. I'm seeing video of the Falcons getting off their bus at their team hotel in Philadelphia. So the Falcons have arrived.
Got this text message here. A Falcon can fly higher than an eagle. Dirty bird dance all day. Is that verified?
I saw something yesterday. They went to the zoo and asked the people at the Philadelphia Zoo the characteristics of Falcons and eagles and which bird would win in a fight.
Well, the game that I remember the most, these two teams played in a pretty big playoff game. It was the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, Donovan McNabb against Michael Vick.
Yep.
And the Eagles won that game, went to the Super Bowl. We all know how that ended up. But these two teams have played in a pretty important game not too long ago, about 13, 14 years ago, I guess you could say. That game, the Eagles won. We'll see how this one goes. The matchups to watch in this one. ESPN.com NFL Insider KC Joyner joins us now for all the matchups to watch for Eagles and Falcons. Welcome, KC. How are you, pal?
Been a bit sick this week. Getting better just in time for these awesome playoff matchups.
Well, we got obviously the one here that a lot of people are very interested in, and Nick Foles has really changed the feeling for a lot of people. But it's the things that happen around Nick that really make this game, different. I mean, they're going to have to lean on different things. So let's start with some of the matchups that you're looking at here and start up front with the Eagles' offensive line. That offensive line with Vaitai and Kelsey and Brooks and Lane Johnson up against the front four of the Atlanta Falcons here, which has only given up 100 yards once in the regular season. That was Jay Ajayi. He was the running back for the Dolphins at the time. So do you like the Eagles' offensive line's ability to be able to create some space for Jay Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount, and Corey Clement?
Yeah, I did an article for ESPN's Insider section just a couple days ago that looked at all the grades for the offensive blocking walls. It's not just the offensive lines. I include tight ends, fullbacks, wide receivers, if they have blocks. So look at the offensive blocking walls and graded all the playoff blocking walls versus the defensive front sevens for these teams and how well they stop the run or rush the passer. The Eagles in this analysis, now their offensive blocking wall ranked 7th because they're the pass blocking walls, but their run blocking was a B+ and was pretty close to an A-. So I like where they're at there because this is all based on advanced metrics too. So they did very well in the number of advanced metrics. And the Falcons, their defense across the board, they got B grades across the board, but their rush defense was a B-. So I think of all the matchups that the Eagles have an advantage. It's not a huge edge, but if you're going B+ versus B-, yeah, I like the Eagles' ability to say we can lean on the ground game.
Is there a back that the Eagles, you think – I don't know if there's backs that match up well against a certain style, but we saw Ajayi go for 130 against this team, but it's a smaller Falcon team. So, does LeGarrette Blount make a lot of sense to wear them down? Do you want to see them mix? If you're Doug Peterson, is there a back that you're game planning more for?
Oh, I definitely want to use power against the Falcons. You're right. They are speed defense. That's why their rush defense isn't as good as their pass defense. The thing is, they're not good at winning point of attack battles. But if you beat them at the point of attack, they're good at pursuing. So, okay, I wear them down. I'm thinking about just going full board. Say I want Blount to be. Ajayi is not a small back either. He's not quite the size of Blount, but he's not a small back. But I'm going Blount, and I'm going Ajayi as the counterpuncher, and then if they get wore down, then I'm going to Ajayi trying to hit the home runs because Ajayi's been such a good back and a breakaway back and really double-digit good blocking yards per attempt total. That's the way I'm looking at it to say I want to wear those guys down.
So Eagles offensive line against the Falcons defensive front. You like Eagles there. What about the receivers for Philly? Very good secondary. Yesterday, Brian Baldinger called them sticky defenders, that they stick to you. He likes their secondary here. But how do you like the matchup between Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Torrey Smith, Zach Ertz against the secondary of this Atlanta team?
I'm worried first about if they can get a good pass blocker or not, because that's an edge where Philadelphia really, it's a place where they might have some problems because they ranked 21st, the Eagles did, in pass pressure rate allowed. 30% of their dropbacks, they were able to, they allowed pass rush pressure. So they've got to be able to get good blocking. If they can't do that, and none of the downfield that issues are going to matter. The matchup that I like, I really want to see them go vertical in some way, and I think they need to get Ertz going vertical more than they usually do to make him, I don't want to say the centerpiece of the vertical game because usually no tight ends do that, but that's where I want to see them go because they've got to find a way to get Foles to be better than he was in vertical yards per attempt. Since he took over as the starter, he ranks next to last in vertical yards per attempt. Only Brett Hundley had a worse number, so they need to be able to at least get something functional there, and I think the tight end is the best place to go.
Yeah, the seam routes should be open. Nelson Aguilar and Zach Ertz, two guys that can really hit you there in that spot. And, that Eagles passing game, you mentioned the vertical passes. Foles has not completed one of over 20 yards yet. 8 tries, none at this point. That's going to have to change, right?
It has to, and they talk about True Font being such a shutdown corner. I don't think there's anybody in the Falcons secondary. I've got that red, yellow, green rating. Nobody who I would say is a red-rated player that you say you're just going to avoid altogether. There's guys who are close, but nobody who is. I'm saying I'm avoiding that target. But if I'm the Eagles, I hate to say it, I'm not looking from a personnel perspective because there's nobody weak enough in the defense in the Falcons secondary because that's the guy they really go after. But if I'm them, I'm trying to at least play, like you said, a seam route against cover 2. I'm looking to play call some kind of an advantage because I'm just not trusting Foles enough or any of my receivers enough to say, okay, I can beat that. I got to be able to tell Foles, all right, you've got, now they're doing this and you've got this guy open and be able to hit it because he's just not able to hit anybody who's covered. That's for darn sure.
No, his accuracy has been called into play. And when he misses, Casey's high a lot. He has guys open. He throws them high. But when he's on, he's on. I mean, that throw he made in the Rams game to really seal the deal there, he put it in a spot that nobody else, I mean, quite frankly, I don't know that Wentz makes that throw where he put that ball to Nelson Aguilar, who caught that ball kind of bending backwards. But when he's on, and when he's off, he seems to be high. So, when you watch Nick Foles, the inconsistencies are what drive you crazy.
They are, and it makes you wonder if it's because we'd say it with Wentz too. He'd get early in the game and he'd be like Brett Favre used to be when Mike Holmgren used to tell him, "Can you please stop throwing rocket balls?" He'd tell him in the first quarter to calm down and relax, and you'd see Favre play a different game later, same kind of thing, and Foles that mindset. So if I'm Peterson, that's another reason that you need to get the running game going is to just relax Foles because the last thing I want to do in the first quarter is say, "Okay, Foles, I want you to drop back and start trying to beat this speedy pass rush," because the pass rush for the Falcons is B+, and the Eagles pass blocking grade in this article was a C, so that's a pretty big edge for the Falcons. I don't want him facing that until I'm ready to have him face it from a game plan situation.
Okay, let's flip the script a little here. You got Fletcher Cox, Timmy Jernigan, Graham, Long, Vinny Curry, Derek Barnett. The Eagles come at you. What kind of offensive line are they seeing?
The offensive line they're seeing, now the Falcons were one of 3 teams that had A grades in both run blocking and pass blocking. The Saints, and the Patriots are the 3. The Steelers ended up just short there, but the Falcons ended up at that point. The problem for them, though, is, as the article says, they've trended. Their blocking has trended much better of late towards the ground game. I mentioned this some advanced metrics in the article, but it basically is that they're giving their running backs much better blocking in the running game now than they were early in the season. Their pass blocking has dropped off pretty dramatically. In fact, against the Rams, the Falcons allowed a 42.9% pass pressure rate. It's the highest rate they've allowed all season long. So I think the Falcons are going to want to run the football, which honestly that's not very good because the Eagles' front 7 is the best front 7 in the playoffs right now.
KC Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL Insider, the matchups to watch here. Julio Jones, Sanu, that wide receiving core, they got 2 big guys. The Eagles have a smaller secondary there, which, it's tough to get a read on them. You had Darby out for a long period of time. Mills, people either like him a lot or don't like him at all. Teams either pick on him or go away from him. It's an interesting cat there. Robinson, kind of a journeyman, has played great this year. You got Rasul Douglas. Sidney Jones may play. We don't know what's going on there, but how about the matchup between the receivers and this Eagles secondary?
If I'm the Eagles, I am inviting Atlanta to run the football. I'm not putting the 8th guy in the box. I'm going to sit back at least 2 safeties every play. I want them to run the football because their pass blocking has dropped off, and I want to test and see if their pass blocking is any good. And again, I don't like the matchups in the secondary at all. At least in Julio Jones, there's nobody, and very few people could stop him anyway. But there's too many places where Philadelphia is strong. I mean, I'm on the Bills. I'm leaning more towards Mills is better than he was before, but he still rates as a green-rated cornerback in my system, which is not a good rating. So I'm of that mindset that they need to invite Atlanta to run the ball as much as possible. Again, because Atlanta's been run blocking so well, I think that you could convince Atlanta that they could continue that up. But Philadelphia's rush defense, they rank first in the league at good blocking rate allowed. They're sixth in the league at good blocking productivity, fifth in yards before first defensive contact. I want to invite Atlanta to test that and see if I can keep this 2017 game.
Obviously, the Eagles want to get to Matt Ryan. I mean, to rush the passer and try to, take that passing game away. That's one question, though, about can they hit the deep ball to Julio Jones with the Eagles pass rush? I mean, are they going to get is Matt Ryan, does he get enough time to be able to hit the big play against this pass rush?
No team in the league allowed a lower time in pocket number than the Eagles. The Eagles allowed an average of 2.15 seconds time in pocket before pass, and even time before pass, actually time in pocket when the quarterback stayed in the pocket. They allowed 2.15 seconds per play. That's the lowest number in the league. And time before a pass, which means from pass inside the pocket, pass outside the pocket, they were at 2.34. Again, the lowest number in the league. So no, Ryan may not have a lot of time to pass vertically downfield because this pass rush has a history all season long of not allowing passers much time.
What's the difference about the Falcons' offense this year compared to last year? Where are they a different team?
Thing is I expected that if you would have said to come in the season, they scored 187 fewer points this year than they did last year. So you'd say, wow, that's a massive drop-off. And it is, point-wise. But if you said that before the season, I'd say, well, the offensive line must not have performed as well. As mentioned, their offensive line is playing exceptionally well, so it's not that. And Julio Jones is not like he turned into a bad receiver or Matt Ryan turned into a bad quarterback. The fact of the matter is that Sarkisian's just not a guy who's going to be as aggressive in his plays. He's just, he's going to call certain types of downfield plays, but he's not as aggressive as Kyle Shanahan was, and I think that just makes them a less dangerous offense, which, again, I keep talking about this 2017 score. That's the mindset the Eagles need to have going in this game to say, well, I don't think if the Eagles have to score more than 20, I don't think they can win. But if they can get the Falcons into a matchup where they make it a slugfest and invite them to get that and say, okay, we're both going to run the football and see who wins, I think they can turn this into a 2017 game that they could win.
Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, they're definitely two weapons that the Eagles are going to I don't know how well they match up with covering the backs out of the backfield, but I remember a couple games this year they have struggled with backs coming out of the backfield against them, and these are two of the best.
And they will utilize both of them in the passing game. That's one of the things they'll do a lot. One of the things I'm going to be curious on to see how the Eagles handle what's called a Texas route combination. It's where you have somebody run down the middle of the field, they clear out the middle of the field, and then the running back comes out in a little angle route behind them. It's a really tough route for anybody to cover, and when you've got running backs like this, they call it a Texas route because if it works, it makes your receiver so open it looks like he's running through the middle of Texas, and that's what the Falcons are probably going to try and do a lot of. And if they do, and if the Eagles don't cover that successfully, it's going to be a very tough day because that's going to be something they're going to test it on.
Okay, if you're Philly, what's the best way and where to attack the Falcon defense?
I want to run at them. I want to wear them down. I want to be like Georgia was in the national championship game. It didn't turn out so well for them, but early on it worked well. I want to just wear those guys down. I want to make those speed pass rushes not have it. Just make them. Yeah, you want to get that rotation out there, that's fine. We'll wear each one of your guys out, and you guys aren't very big, and we've got big road graders in the offensive line. We want to make you have to come up and tackle our big running backs. I want to just wear those guys down because I think the Falcons are a team you can do that to. Remember the Super Bowl, too, that they got wore down at the end of the Super Bowl because of pace, but I think you can wear them down with power, too.
One matchup, I think the Eagles have a big advantage, and it didn't help out L.A. last week. Donald versus Garland in the interior there, Fletcher Cox versus Garland in the middle there. But the Eagles do have more pass rushers than just Fletcher Cox. Donald was kind of a one-man band last week, but that could be a big factor. Garland, a backup left guard against Fletcher Cox there. And if Fletcher can disrupt some things, that could really throw this game out of whack.
It can, and one of the keys to good run defense, too, is, again, if you've got linemen who can take up a couple blockers and keep those linebackers free, because the Eagles play such an aggressive defense, too. They get trying to get all their people after running backs. It's one of the reasons why if the Eagles' rush defense didn't rate very well and good blocking yards per attempt, occasionally we'd give up big plays and things. But if you've got a defensive lineman with that kind of a mismatch you're talking about there, if he can go and take up a couple of linemen on a consistent basis and just say, you're going to have to double-team me almost every play, 70% of the time you're going to have to put two guys on me. Now you're clearing up that linebacker, and suddenly, if you've got the kind of linebackers Eagles have, I don't think you allow those big plays nearly as often because somebody's unblocked.
Falcons are 11-0 this year. When they score 20 or more points, they are 0-6 when they do not. The Eagles give up 18.4 points per game. Something must give potentially on Saturday. That stat's very fun to watch. We'll get Casey's pick on that one in just a second. Let's look at the other matchups here. New England's taking on Tennessee. Casey, the Titans obviously came storming back last week. They can run the ball. Henry, if they can control the ball here, is there a conceivable way that Tennessee can go to Foxborough and come out heading to the AFC Championship game?
Well, first thing they do is get off the plane because they're stuck in the tarmac at last check, and they're stuck in the tarmac because of the winter storm. So let's hope they get there. The Titans' front seven is the second best-rated front seven in the playoffs right now. Their rush defense is an A-, and I think they could stop the Patriots' ground game. The Patriots want to run the ball a lot more because Brady hasn't played as well. And this is the biggest finding in this insider article. Well, the Patriots' front seven grades that as an F. I mean, and I know they had the early season struggles. They've had struggles all season long. They've improved in a lot of ways, but this is still a team that's very beatable. I don't think Tennessee will do it, but again, I think they've got a 3-10 chance, or most people think they may be a 1-10 chance.
Jacksonville won 30-9 in Pittsburgh earlier. 5 picks by Ben Roethlisberger. Big day by Leonard Fournette. Do we see a similar game on Sunday afternoon?
No, because Roethlisberger was struggling with vertical passing early in the season. He's not struggling with vertical passing. Antonio Brown is practicing in full. He's back to full strength, and he's not be limited at all. And the one stat I keep coming up with in this game, or actually two. One is Jacksonville's allowing a terribly high good blocking rate of late. So the rush defense grades out as a D-. They're really bad. And as good as their pass rush is, they're called Sacksonville. In this game, the team that has the most sacks and the highest sack rate is the Pittsburgh Steelers because they led the league in both categories.
Late game on Sunday, maybe the most intriguing game, Saints and Vikings. You got that Vikings defense. The Saints very balanced offensively. Last week, take the run game away, fine. Drew Brees is there. But this Vikings defense is a little different than the Carolina team they saw last week. So Minnesota at home. The Saints, the hot team on the road.
The thing about the Vikings that was surprising in this article is their offensive line, or their offensive blocking ball, rated last, dead last, which was surprising, but they've got a lot of weak points if you look at their advanced metrics. And their defense, their rush defense, graded as a D+. And you say, wow, a D+, how did they rank second in the league in rush yards allowed? Yeah, they ranked second in the league in rush yards allowed because their offense ranked second in the league in time possession, and they only had the third fewest rush attempts against them. So, I mean, it has to do with volume in that category. When you start looking at how they performed on a tape grading basis, they're nowhere near as good, and I think that the ones that's going to be able to run the ball a lot. And Minnesota's not going to be able to run the ball against the Saints as well, I don't think, and that's the only weakness in the Saints is their rush defense.
All right, Sports Bash Live, KC Joyner, Eagles and Falcons in Philadelphia. I see that just about every prognosticator is going Falcons. I don't know that I've seen one go Eagles. I know your record of all the ESPN game pickers is the best, and it is the second best among all prognosticators in about 130 people ranked in this. You're number 2?
Yeah, tied for second according to the site NFL Pick Watch. Tied for second in picks this season, and first among ESPN analysts for the second straight season. So, got a good streak going.
Okay, so are you going to be one of the few to stick your neck out there and go Eagles, or do you think the Falcons pull off a road playoff victory tomorrow night?
If I thought that Nick Foles could be the 27-2 touchdown interception guy or anywhere close to that, I wouldn't have any hesitation to pick the Eagles. But he looks like the guy who played the few seasons after that. He's just, if he can't get any vertical passing going on, maybe he can, but he's played so badly. I just got to go chalk on this one and go with the Falcons.
Falcons for KC Joyner, and Ross Tucker went Falcons. Sal Paolantonio earlier took the Eagles. Johnny Mack went Eagles. So we're split with our experts today. 2 Falcons, 2 Eagles. KC Joyner, ESPN.com. We'll be back on Monday to recap the divisional round at 5 o'clock here on the Sports Bash. All right, pal, enjoy the football.
Thank you, appreciate it.